Okay, well, it is official. The big, beautiful bill has passed.
The yeas are 218, the nays are 214. The motion is adopted.
Okay, so what's in it for you? Is this going to help you? Is this going to hurt you? Who benefits the most from this? As you can see, every single Democrat voted no to the bill. Almost every single Republican ended up voting yes to this bill, except for two. There were two holdouts, those two holdouts being Thomas Massie, who said that he did not like how this was adding trillions of dollars to the national debt. And the other person who voted against this was Fitzpatrick. This would be, what is his full name? He's from Pennsylvania. Brian Fitzpatrick from Pennsylvania also said that he could not vote for this. He ended up not voting for it. He said he could not abide by the Senate's version of the bill, viewed by many to have even harsher cuts to social services than the version passed by the House that he had backed. So he had at one point backed the bill. Then when it went to the Senate, amendments were made. When it came back to the House, he said, I can't support this. So the reason he couldn't, he said, quote, I voted to strengthen Medicaid protections, to permanently extend middle-class tax cuts, for enhanced small business tax relief, and for historic investments in our border security and our military. However, it was the Senate's amendments to Medicaid, in addition to several other Senate provisions, that altered the analysis for our Pennsylvania 1 community. So he's thinking of his constituents. He says the original House language was written in a way that protected our community. The Senate amendments fell short of our standard. So that is why Fitzpatrick voted against it. Massie said, although there were some conservative wins in the budget reconciliation bill, I voted no on final passage because it would significantly increase U.S. budget deficits in the near term, negatively impacting all Americans through sustained inflation and high interest rates, he wrote. So that is why he ultimately, Massie, as he said, he would always be voting against this because of the massive amount of spending that it had in it. Okay, so the big question is what's in it for you, and who is actually going to, who's going to benefit the most for this bill? Well, we'll get to it here. I've got a video to play for you of them talking about the Medicaid cuts in particular, and it was actually Steve Scalise talking about it, and it's really telling when you look at what's actually in this bill, who they actually boosted and who's benefiting the most. So let's go over it. There are some key tax reliefs for average people. So these are some of the wins for you. The largest proportional tax cuts are for low and middle income workers, although the analysis shows that the biggest winners are, of course, the high income earners. They're actually going to get the largest tax breaks, but a lot of the tax breaks in the bill are for lower and middle income workers. So according to the Nonpartisan Joint Committee on Taxation, those making less than $50,000 receive the biggest percentage tax cuts. And that would be if you make less than $15,000, you're getting a 16.4% cut. If you make between $15,000 and $30,000, you're getting a 27.1% cut. $30,000 to $40,000, you're getting a 9.5% cut. If you make $40,000 to $50,000, you're getting a 7.2% cut. These cuts are delivered through an increased standard deduction, expanded child tax credits, and new tax breaks for childcare, tips, and overtime pay. There's now no taxes on tips and overtime. Workers in tipped positions and those earning overtime will see new tax incentives. Tips and overtime pay are exempt from federal taxes for most workers through 2028, increasing the take-home pay for many service and hourly workers. Now, I don't like this, and I'll tell you why I don't like the no taxes on tips. Now, no taxes on overtime I think is great, but no taxes on tips, the problem with that is we live in a it's like overzealous. The tipping culture has gone way out of control. And most of us hate the tipping culture. It's only going to get worse. Have you noticed that now they're asking for like 22% for okay service, 25% for good service, 30% for excellent service? It used to be 15%, 18% was being generous. Then it boosted up to 20%. Now we're seeing 22%, 25%, and even up to 30%. And if the tips are not taxed, you're going to see a lot of push for more tips because they're going to have, it's not taxed income. So why wouldn't they push for you to give them more money that they don't have to pay taxes on? So I think we're going to actually see a lot of us enjoying life less, we're not going to be able to go out as much because there's going to be an expectation for higher tips. And a lot of us are just not going to want to do that. So, I mean, look, on the flip side, you could look at this as a kind of a silver lining thing, which is now you're probably going to be eating out less, which means America might get skinnier. Maybe we'll eat at home more, we'll cook at home more, and maybe for our overall health that will be beneficial. So that's the silver lining. Maybe we'll spend more meals at home inviting people over. Maybe we will bond with our neighbors and our family members more because we'll do more of that stay-at-home cooking and having family meals. And so maybe it's actually, like I said, silver lining, it'll be better. But but because people will start staying home because the servers are asking for more money, they're going to ask for even more money when you go out because they're trying to compensate for those who are no longer going out. So, I don't know if that's such the win that maybe the service industry thinks it is. Senior bonus deduction. Older Americans age 65 plus can claim a special deduction up to $6,000 per person in the Senate version to reduce their taxable income, providing targeted relief for retirees and seniors on fixed incomes. So that is going to be good for seniors. Charitable giving deduction for non-itemizers. For the first time, those who take the standard deduction can also deduct up to $1,000 for a single person or $2,000 joint in charitable donations, making it easier for average Americans to benefit from giving. So that's good. Auto loan interest deduction. Taxpayers can deduct up to $10,000 in interest on new car loans for vehicles assembled in the U.S., which could help families financing new cars. So that could be a good thing. Other notable provisions, expansion of child care access and child tax credit. The bill expands access to affordable child care, increases the child tax credit, aiming to support working families with young children. There's also now that newborn savings account that establishes savings accounts for newborns intended to help families start saving for children's futures. Now, where it gets ugly and where there are the cuts that a lot of people are saying, look, yeah, okay, you're cutting my taxes, great. But actually the cuts you're making to services are going to make it to where I actually have less money. So I'm going to have to spend more on medical care, for example. Even though you're giving me a tax break, it doesn't actually even out. It actually makes it to where I'm taking home less. So the cuts to Medicaid and food assistance. Now this one, look, I'm all about if you want to cut Medicaid and if you want to cut food stamps for people who are actually working. And you would rather, I think it's great to tax them less. In fact, I think we should all pay way fewer taxes, like a lot. In fact, I think we should abolish income tax altogether. But to the cuts to Medicaid, this and food assistance. And if you're only getting a moderate cut in taxation, it's not actually going to help you boost your ability to acquire healthcare and food, if you know what I mean. It doesn't balance it out. So this is where people are getting upset. The bill includes substantial cuts to safety net programs like Medicaid and SNAP, and the new federal work requirements could lead to millions losing Medicaid or food assistance, especially among low-income and vulnerable populations. So there's a lot of people who voted for Donald Trump who are in these groups, and they might find that they struggle a lot more. Now, the GOP position is pull yourself up by the bootstraps and go get a job, go get a better job. And that is really challenging right now in a very competitive job market. People are reporting really yes, they say, oh, we just created a bunch of new jobs. But they don't say, oh, great paying jobs that are full time. A lot of gig jobs, a lot of part-time jobs are being created. A lot of, instead of having one good job where you could support your wife and 3 kids and live in a middle-income house and go on vacation once a year to Yellowstone, people aren't able to do that anymore. And instead, rather than having one solid job that could support your wife and 3 kids and all of that, you're now having to work 3 odd jobs in order to make ends meet because you're having a hard time finding the one full-time job. Or even if you do have a full-time job, it doesn't pay enough, and so you have to get a part-time job on top of it. So the quality of life for people who are trying to support families, especially a family of 5, that really should be the baseline. What does it take to support a family of 5 in America? That should be the question, and we should ensure that it's that people are able to get to that point, and without having to work 10 jobs between 2 people and putting the kids in daycare. That would be the ideal. So we'll see how the Medicaid and food assistance, the cuts go on that. And that being said, let me play for you this Steve Scalise this video because it really Well, then we'll get into what they boosted in the big, beautiful bill and why people like Thomas Massey are so against it. But here's Steve Scalise talking about 35-year-olds playing video games, and that's why they need to cut Medicaid.
Before, if you're disabled on Medicaid right now, you've been crowded out of those programs by people turning down work. Able-bodied people, 35-year-olds sitting at home playing video games. They're going to now have to go get a job. That's right. And by the way, that's a good thing for them. Their mom doesn't want them sitting in the basement playing video games anyway. But now it no longer will be crowding out Medicaid for the truly needy people who deserve it.
Okay. The reality is that no one's being crowded out of Medicaid. So that is not true. It's not like somebody who really, really needs it can't get it because the 35-year-old playing video games refused to go get a job and so he's on Medicaid. That's not actually happening. But let's talk. So here's the problem with this bill is that they're saying to you, you need to get a job and you need to just pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Meanwhile, and we're going to cut these services to you because we don't want to give them to you anymore. We don't think you deserve them. Meanwhile, the bill turns the military budget into a bloated $1.5 trillion annually budget. Now they're getting about $1.5 trillion. So you heard about the $1 trillion increase. It's actually closer to $1.5 trillion annually that the military is getting through various different, they're doing these various different, for one, you just increase the military budget itself, but then they're also adding money for nuclear weapons, for building AI. There's a lot of money that goes into AI, but it's AI for military warfare AI. So AI-driven munitions, also hypersonic missiles, one-way attack drones. They're doing so they're adding a solid $1.5 trillion each year to the military, and and they're also still giving aid out to Israel and to all of these other countries, trying to boost up, putting them on. I mean, Israel's a welfare state, and Israel, by the way, pays for all of their people to have health care. So our dollars actually pay for all the Israelis to have health care. But then when it comes to you, they say, look, we got to cut it because you need to go and get a job and pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Well, why don't we just tell Israel to pull itself up by its bootstraps and stop leeching off the United States? Because we'd actually like to have money to give our population medical care the same way that they receive medical care from their government. So, they're taking money away from Americans, but they're giving money to the military-industrial complex. They're giving money to more wars. And the fact that they're adding so much to the military and to defense contractors and to hypersonic missiles and to more nukes, the fact that they're doing that really counters Trump's whole message of we want to reduce foreign entanglements. We want to get out of these foreign wars. But that's not what's happening with this big, beautiful bill. So I think, what a lot of people need to start doing is saying, look, it's fine. If you want to cut all of these welfare programs for Americans, then you need to reduce our taxes by a lot more than just 12% or 6% only for a certain income. I mean, that's under $50,000. The rest of the earners, then the bill benefits those in high income. But a lot of what I would consider middle income, which is like $50,000 to $100,000, that's more like middle class in America. They're not getting really any cuts to taxes whatsoever on this bill. So the middle class will still suffer. People in the middle class are going to have a harder time going out because the servers are going to be asking for more money. And meanwhile, we're just bloating the military-industrial complex budget. So who is this really helping? Who is this bill actually for? Will you see a change in your life? Probably not. You're probably not going to see a significant change in your life, except for going out won't be as accessible, honestly. And the military will just continue to expand and we'll find ourselves in more wars. So we'll see how this. Elon Musk has remained mum on this at this point. He says he's going to start a new party. I think there should be some serious discussions about that, considering both parties really love war. And that if Democrats came up with a similar bill, if they were the ones in charge, they'd be doing something very similar. So, that's what's in it for you. A lot of times when these bills pass, it doesn't really look like there is much. People don't really notice the impact. But I think a lot of lower income Americans will feel the impact with the Medicaid cuts and the cuts to SNAP. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see how this all pans out. I guess we just have to wait and find out. And then the referendum will happen at the ballot box. We'll either vote in Republicans again during the midterms or we won't. So Sam Altman just confirmed what many of us feared. ChatGPT can now remember everything you've ever typed, your dreams, your business ideas, even the most personal questions. They say it's to get to know you. But with a former NSA director on their board, yeah, you do the math. We've seen this game before. Alexa listens, Meta follows you across the internet. Why would AI be any different? And now they're floating the idea of requiring a government ID to use it. That's why I've switched to Venice AI, a privacy-first AI platform that doesn't spy on you. No data hoarding, no creepy tracking. Your chats stay on your browser encrypted. They don't spy on you or censor the AI. Messages are encrypted and your conversation history is stored only in your browser. AI can be extremely valuable, but we shouldn't need to give up our privacy to use it. And with the Venice Pro plan, which is what I have, you can upload PDFs, you could disable safe mode, you could generate powerful images and text using top open source models right from your browser. Again, no middleman, no surveillance. Here's an example of me asking the same exact question to Venice AI and ChatGPT. ChatGPT is known for giving generic kind of government approved answers if they even answer it at all. But you can see here that Venice AI gives me a much better, more robust, more honest answer. So if you want to use AI without fear of handing over your most intimate thoughts to a corporation or to the government, or if you just want to get some honest answers from an uncensored AI, well then get Venice AI. You can get 20% off a pro plan using my link, venice.ai/Kim. Use code Kim. Again, 20% off a pro plan using my link, venice.ai/Kim, code Kim. Hey guys, thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iverson Show, which you could check out Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern at KimIversonShow.com. See you there.